A grip is how you hold the tennis racket in your hand, and it's the foundation for every single shot you hit in tennis. Now, the grip's really important, but unfortunately, a lot of players just go to the court and they pick up the tennis racket and they don't really think about what kind of grip they're using. They just grab the racket, whatever they end up with is what they play with. Now, the grip's really important, and let me explain why. How you hold the racket influences how you swing up to the tennis ball. And how you swing up to the tennis ball can influence the type of ball you hit. For example, some grips make it easy to swing through the ball. And when I swing straight through the ball, I produce a ball that's relatively flat. In other words, I hit it hard, but it doesn't have much topspin. There are some other grips that allow you to swing up on the ball more. And when you swing up on the ball, you don't get as much pace, but you get more topspin. And that's really important when you're trying to figure out what style of game you're going to play. Attacking players, for example, tend to have more conservative grips that allow you to swing through the ball because the ball's flatter, they can press their opponent more, and they can shorten the points. However, because you're swinging through the ball, you don't get as much topspin. So players that like to grind it out and extend points tend to have more extreme grips that let you swing up on the ball more, generate more topspin, and then those balls get pulled down into the court. You're more consistent. So again, the grip has a heavy influence on the style of play because of how it affects how you swing up to the tennis ball. We're going to talk some more about how your grip could influence your style of play in a moment. But for now, let's focus on the technical definition of a grip. How do I find a grip? How is it defined? And to start, we're going to look at a tennis racket handle, which we've got right here. And the handle is divided into 8 sides, which are also called bevels. And starting on the top bevel, that's bevel number 1. And if we go clockwise around the handle, we get to bevel number 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 on the bottom, all the way around to bevel number 8. Now, the bevel doesn't just apply to the butt cap. It actually extends the entire length of the handle. So if we look from a slightly different perspective, let's go back to bevel number 1 at the top, and then we get bevel number 2 again, 3, and so on, again, all the way around the handle. Now let's look at the hand. There are 2 parts of the hand that we want to identify: the heel pad and the index knuckle, which is the first knuckle of your index finger. Your grip is determined by which bevel on the tennis racket handle the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on. So if we go back to the tennis racket handle, again, the grip is determined by where you position your heel pad and index knuckle along the handle, which bevel it rests on. So for example, the continental grip, which many pros use to serve, is where the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on the second bevel of the handle. So here we have a shot of me holding the racket with a continental grip, and you can see from this vantage point that my heel pad is squarely on the second bevel of the tennis racket handle. And from a different perspective, now we've got the index knuckle also resting on that second bevel. Again, this is the continental grip. Let's get back to how your grip influences your style of play. Now, you may have sat around the clubhouse and heard someone say, well, X grip is better than Y grip, so you should go with X grip. Well, that's simply not the case. One grip is not better than the other. And what you want to do when you're trying to select a grip is think about how that grip works into the larger framework of your game. And let me give you an example of how that works. Roger Federer is an all-court player, and he's an aggressive player. He's an attacking player. And attacking players typically use more conservative grips because that makes it easier to swing through the ball, and that makes it easier to hit the ball hard and keep points short and really dictate play. On the other hand, you've got Rafael Nadal. He has a more extreme grip, and that makes it easier for him to swing up on the ball. And because he's swinging up on the ball, he gets more topspin, and that makes him really consistent, and that's what has allowed him to grind people into the ground on clay and win a ton of French Opens. So the grip should work into the larger framework of the game you're trying to build. And you should think about right now, okay, well, is my grip allowing me to play my style of game? And if it's not, you should consider a change. So that's the key to the grip. Does it allow you to play your style of game? Are you an attacking player? Are you a more consistent player? And your grip should work into that larger framework of how you approach and how you play the game. The Continental grip is the grip most pros use to serve, volley, and slice the ball, and it's the grip you want to use for these shots as well. It's also the grip a lot of pros used back in the day to hit their forehands with, but since the game is so different, it's no longer considered an acceptable forehand grip. The Continental grip is where the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on the second bevel here of the tennis racket handle. This is a shot of me holding the racket with a Continental grip, and my heel pad is resting on that second bevel. And now from a slightly different view, you can see my index knuckle is also resting on that second bevel. The Eastern forehand grip is where the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on the third bevel of the tennis racket handle. This is a shot of me holding the racket with an Eastern forehand grip, and you can see my heel pad is resting on that third bevel. And now from a different view, my index knuckle is also on that third bevel. A shortcut to finding the Eastern forehand grip is to hold the racket in your non-hitting arm and grip it with your hitting hand like you were shaking somebody's hand. That should put you pretty close to an Eastern forehand grip. Now if you hit with an Eastern, your natural contact point is going to be about waist high. It's the lowest of the three forehand grips we've talked about. Also, if you hit with an Eastern, you're going to be able to hit the ball flatter than you would with either a semi-Western or a Western, but the trade-off is that you can't hit with as much spin. The semi-Western forehand grip is where the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on the fourth bevel of the tennis racket handle. And this is a shot of me holding the racket with a semi-Western forehand grip, and my heel pad is resting on this fourth bevel here. And now from a different view, you can see my index knuckle is also on that fourth bevel. A shortcut to finding the semi-Western forehand grip is to take your racket, put it on the ground, and then pick it up. That should put you pretty close to a semi-Western. Now if you play with this grip, your natural contact point is going to be in between your waist and your shoulders, somewhere in that range. Also, if you hit with a semi-Western, you'll be able to hit both flat and with spin. It's a very versatile grip. Now that said, you won't be able to hit as flat as you could with an Eastern or with as much spin as you could with the Western. The Western forehand grip is where the heel pad and the index knuckle rest on the fifth bevel right at the bottom of the handle. Now this is a shot of me holding the racket with a Western forehand grip, and my heel pad is resting on that fifth bevel at the bottom of the handle. And now from a slightly different view, it's a little bit hard to see, but my index knuckle is also on that fifth bevel. A shortcut to finding the Western forehand grip is to hold the racket in your non-hitting hand like this. Take your hitting hand, put it on top of the racket, and then twist the racket over. That'll give you the Western. Now the natural contact point for a Western is pretty high. It's up by your shoulders, and it's the highest of the three grips we've talked about. Also, if you hit with a Western, you'll be able to hit with more topspin than you would with any of the other two grips. But the trade-off is you won't be able to hit the ball as flat.